on a holiday weekend. The roads are pretty full of people going and coming, so I appreciate everybody that has gotten here. Let's first have a reading from the Science of Mind. We're going to have Penny from California do our reading this morning.
Hello, Penny. Ooh. Maybe I better stand back a little bit here. Okay. How high? For me, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously toward a better self. The journey doesn't end. Michelle Obama. Evolution is an eternal unfoldment. Life reveals itself to whoever is receptive to it. Ernest Holmes. Sometimes I think evolution is not just an upward spiral, as it is often presented. Sometimes I think it is also an ever widening lateral spiral that moves from the I, me paradigms to the we. It is the ever unfoldment of love that makes me want to reach out and hug people and support the members of my community. And it doesn't stop there. It is the ever becoming that urges me to get involved in activities and events that are not specifically and directly affecting me or my community. For example, I am not, nor do I personally know any homeless veterans. And yet I have volunteered at a facility where we cooked, served, and dined with those who are. What would happen if we began to think less about evolution as an upward movement and more as a committed engagement to serve, a commitment to shift from me to we, from the individual focus to the collective? Evolving is like breathing. We all breathe. When we learn to meditate, we become more conscious of our breath. More conscious, we then modify our breathing to breathe more fully and more effectively. Evolution is the active, conscious, diligent process of living more fully, loving more fully, and letting ourselves be more fully what we are as divinely magnificent beings. Moment by moment, breath by breath. Affirmation. Today I breathe more fully.
Today, I breathe more fully.
I love more fully.
I love more fully.
I live more fully.
I live more fully.
I know my evolution is not where I go, but rather the life I show.
I know that
My evolution is not where I go, but rather the life I show.
Thank you so much. Let us have a moment of silent meditation, and that reading is so important. I love the way it states that evolution is not just climbing upward, but what I envisioned then was it's expanding outward, and we're going from me to we. So let's do a little meditation on that idea and that knowledge. And now we'll be able to have another song. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Margie. Good morning, everybody.
So this song's called Breathe In, Breathe Out, Move On. And I was going to play that before I heard everyone talk today. So it sounds kind of like the theme is the breath. Jimmy Buffett wrote this song for Hurricane Katrina. And so now they're getting hit again. So it seems appropriate to be playing it. Bought a cheap watch from the crazy man floating down the canal. Doesn't use numbers or moving hands. It always just says now. You may be thinking that I was had, but this watch is never wrong. If I have trouble, the warranty says breathe in, breathe out, move on. And it rains. Really nothing new, and it blew, I've seen it all before, and it poured, the earth began to strain, punch a train, leaking through the door. The hurricane doesn't leave you dead, it will make you strong. Try to explain it, just nod your head, breathe in, breathe out, move on. And it rained, really nothing new. And it blew, you've seen it all before. And it poured, the earth began to strain. Punched a train, buried the night war. According to my watch, the time is now. The past is dead and gone. Try to explain it, just nod your head. Breathe in, breathe out, move on. Thank you.
I'm going to turn the service over to Annie right now.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Annie, and I too welcome everyone to New Thought Center of Hawaii. I'm going to be reading a little bit about our mission, our history, and our connection to the wider world. Our mission is to provide a sanctuary of aloha for the nourishment, development, and evolution of each individual's unique spiritual path. Our history is that this group evolved from the Kona Community Church of Religious Science, founded in 1971. We have held Sunday services continuously from that time, previously in Keaho, and since 1999 in Kealakekua. Thanks to the pandemic of 2020 and 2021, we have developed the technical capabilities to hold our services online when necessary. We're affiliated with the International New Thought Alliance, an umbrella organization that brings together groups and individuals who share certain common beliefs and attitudes. Among them, the idea that a new thought embodied in consciousness produces a new condition. INTA also includes many unity and religious science churches and centers for spiritual living.
Thank you, Annie. We're doing something new this morning. If you, I'm sure noticed, I'm not facilitating the whole service, and neither is Annie. We decided that we would team up and do this together. So I think this is a pretty good thing that we're taking care of today. I want to thank everybody for wearing their mask this morning, and we are thankful that we are able to stay as healthy as we are. From now on, we're going to have to do online services according to the medical information that's coming out. We're going to continue to have even more and more people have this illness, and we would rather not expose each other to that. We think that it is going to be peaking in October, so the rest of September we will not be having in-person services. We'll go back to online, and then we will be making a decision. The board will decide what we will do after that. You can check the website at NTCH or the YouTube link, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com, and that will let you know what we're going to be doing in October. But from 12 to 26th of September, we will not be having in-person services. I would love it if we could have another song, and since we didn't know who was singing, it is Rob Decker.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
The masked singer.
Yes.
Literally. Okay, it gives me nice, different vibrato singing through the cloth. Times I lay under the moon, thank God that I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, though I never let it get me down. When negativity surrounds, know someday I'll turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we're not gonna fight no more, there won't be no war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. It's not about win or lose, I'll lose when we feed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving, water stays raging. In this maze, you can lose your way. Don't let it make you crazy, no way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, though I never let it get me down. When negativity surrounds, oh, someday I'll turn around. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we're not gonna fight no more, there will be no war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. One day this will all change, people the same. Stop with the violence, stop with the hate. One day we'll all be free, proud to be under the same song, singing songs of freedom. Way oh, way oh. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we're not gonna fight no more, there will be no war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. To
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed that. At this time in our service, we offer a time for miracles and ordinaries. We like to have anyone come up and share, and if you would, we would appreciate your leaving your mask on and coming to the microphone and telling us about a miracle or an ordinary that's happened to you recently. So the floor is open. Well, I guess I will share just a little bit. I appreciated the song about Katrina. I raised 3 children in Louisiana for over 40 years, and last Sunday was horrendous. I'm thankful that I lived in Baton Rouge after I moved from Cajun country, so all of my kids' relatives are in Cajun area, and I want to say thank you to Cajun Navy and all the Cajun people that are helping out. And I'm thankful that they finally listened to General Honore. He was the one that took care of Katrina. I saw him a few days ago, and he said, they've got to get the people out of New Orleans. You got to put buses in there. Well, 5 days later, they listened to him. So they are getting people out. I can't imagine that temperature is 100. And we went through several hurricanes while I was there, and it gets so black out when there isn't a light, and then it's pretty rough being able to manage. The hurricane last year, I had gotten up and shared because the hurricane was headed for Cajun country, and it went west and hit Lake Charles, and it wasn't as bad as it could have been. This time it was headed right for Baton Rouge, and I don't know how it would have been, the people would have managed if it would have done what it did to New Orleans and then hit another 200,000 person area. I don't know how that everyone could have managed with that, but it veered off to the east, and so Baton Rouge just lost some of its power. I have friends my age that live by themselves, and so it can be very devastating, very just a traumatic event. So I just want to say thank you to General Honore and to the Cajuns and to all the people who are sending prayers and wishing the best for all of the people in Louisiana. Thank you. And now I get to turn it over to Annie.
Share a miracle?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pasha.
So yesterday was the birthday of our youngest child, Kalani McGregor Bauer, and she's the one member of our immediate family who's truly a Kama'aina. She was born in a coffee shack in Honaunau, and I won't say how many years ago, but no, this pandemic is such an interesting mixture of pain and blessings. And one thing that has happened to Rob and I are the only members of our family who currently live in Hawaii. So our 2 daughters were raised here. My brother and his family were in Honolulu, but we're the ones that are still here. So of course, in the peak of the pandemic, it was a pretty long time of separation when we couldn't be in the same place. We couldn't visit our families. They couldn't visit us. They fortunately came during that nice time in the earlier part of the summer when things felt relatively safe. So we reconnected. But even when we couldn't be physically in the same place, we've been invited to birthday parties. Now, in normal times, there's no way. I mean, We've got a family in Chicago. We've got some of them in North Carolina, some in Oregon. So normally, I mean, we'd send cards and presents, but we wouldn't expect them to invite us to parties. But now, since Zoom has become such a phenomenon, and even if people are in the same region, it may not be safe to physically gather. So it doesn't matter that we're thousands of miles away, from where they are. We still get invited to the parties. So we had a great time celebrating our daughter's birthday yesterday. We lit candles, we blew up balloons and popped them and showed each other our animals, dogs, cats. Anyway, it was a joyful time, and that's the miracle I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasha. Well, now it is my absolute sincere pleasure. I've been looking forward to hearing this wonderful presenter all week. I'd like to introduce to you Phil Sears. Phil is a retired educator, and until June, he was the executive director of the Kona Pacific Public Charter School, a public Waldorf school in Kealakekua. Phil has been a student of Rudolf Steiner and his cosmology for 40 years. He was a Waldorf teacher in private and public Waldorf schools for many years, and most recently has been a school leader in international schools and public Waldorf charter schools. Phil has since 1985, I was going to say 1895. It's a little early. Been a member of the pedagogical section of the School of Spiritual Science, the research branch of the Worldwide Anthroposophical Society, headquartered in Dornach, Switzerland. Phil completed one of his 3 full-time years of Waldorf training in the mid-1980s in what at the time was West Germany, in order to learn German and to be able to read Steiner in his original language. It was his good fortune from the time he met anthroposophy until after the turn of the new millennium to be in close contact with second-generation anthroposophists, that is, not the original students of Steiner, but those who became students of anthroposophy after Steiner's death in 1925 and worked closely with the first-generation anthroposophists. Thus, he was able to gain much information about Steiner and his original students that is not written in books. Phil is also a lifelong student of multiple other spiritual perspectives, including New Thought, Taoism, Shamanism, and A Course in Miracles. He is currently writing his first book, A Revised Course in Miracles. It is Phil's pleasure to be able to share an introduction to Rudolf Steiner's life and works with the Friends of the New Thought Center of Hawaii. So welcome, Phil. We're glad you're here today.
So this is slightly different than last time. See if I can navigate this. Does that look okay? Okay, and I'll try not to talk too loudly. So it is a pleasure to be here again this morning with everyone. Thank you to everyone, Marge and Annie and Pasha for setting this up, Jeff for running the technical, and Rob for the music. I was here 54 weeks ago, so a year and 2 weeks on August 23rd. And it's kind of a deja vu. You know, we thought at that point that this would be on the other side of this, and we're still dealing with this pandemic, so it's quite interesting. I wanted to start by doing an exercise or an activity that is done in Waldorf schools worldwide from 1st through 12th grades. And this is most days, it certainly could be done most days in Waldorf schools, 1st through 12th grade. And that is a review of the previous day's lesson. Now, our lesson was 378 days ago. So I'm not going to ask anyone to review it unless you had seen the YouTube video of that. And I encourage you to do that because I'm only going to touch lightly on many of these things. But I'll quickly review what we covered a year ago in Rudolf Steiner's life. And here is a picture of the great Mahatma, the great friend of humanity, one of my beloved teachers. So Rudolf Steiner was born in late February of 1861 just before the Civil War in the United States broke out. And in a sense, that was a motif, a kind of a sanity, a voice of sanity in the face of great turmoil. He was born in what then was the Austrian-Hungarian Empire in a small rural village, which is now located in the country of Croatia. And he came in very humble surroundings. His father was a game warden on the estate of a count. And when he started his family, he became a station master for the railroads in that part of the world. And Steiner, from the time he was born, was truly living in the spiritual world. He was what we would call clairvoyant. He didn't realize that until he became a boy and had memories. His first experience, as I portrayed a year ago, was at the age of 5. One of his aunts died and came to visit him. And he told his mother about this. His mother chastised him for, making something like this up. And then the letter came sometime later announcing that at the same time that Rudolf Steiner had shared this with the mother, the aunt had indeed crossed over. And Steiner learned to keep these experiences to himself. We talked a year ago about what that really means to live in the spiritual world. And we live in the physical world. The physical world is our home, and it makes perfect sense that we see a world of objects around us. And living in the spiritual world, as we said, was you experience this mystery of eternity, that the current moment you know is something that was planned long ago. It's the result of things that took place long ago playing out. You experience the mystery of infinity, all of the layers of consciousness, the invisible realms above us, the angels and so forth. The deceased are right there. They're right there with you. And you recognize the gifts that all of the visible kingdoms are giving to us at this moment. So you're really living in the present moment. And then you recognize the other side of the mystery of time, which is that this moment is really creating the future. And you have a much more profound sense of how that creation is happening. So this was Rudolf Steiner's reality. He loved natural science, everything about natural science. And in a way, you could say that was his way of balancing out this natural space that he lived in, the spiritual world. He really loved to learn about the physical world. His parents moved the family eventually to the vicinity of Vienna, which was one of the great metropolitans at that time, in order for Rudolf Steiner to have access to a good education. They could tell from early on that he was a brilliant student. And he did get an academic scholarship to the Vienna Institute of Technology. And there he studied mathematics, chemistry, physics, mineralogy, botany, zoology, along with literature and philosophy. So Steiner was interested in everything in the world. And so he became known as a rising figure along the lines of a Nietzsche at that time. And something happened in 1888. So when he was about 27, he was known as a scholar of a very famous German. We talked about that a year ago. A German named Goethe, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe is his full name. Now, I talked at that time about Goethe. If you were to think about representative Americans, probably several people would come to your mind. Maybe a George Washington, maybe a Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, founding folks of this country. And you could think of lots of people in the years since then who might come to your mind as representative Americans, who really represent the highest of what it means to be American. For Germans, Goethe would be right at the top of everyone's list to this day. And that is because Goethe was really an exemplary human being. He was both an artist and a scientist. His great work of literature is the book Faust, which is one of the great works of world literature. And he also, I talked about a year ago, developed a new scientific method which challenged Newton's scientific method, and a new color theory which also challenged Newton's color theory. And he was famous for saying that he was able to see, Goethe saw the archetypal plant, and that was the leaf, and that every plant everywhere on the earth was a metamorphosis of the leaf. And this was his famous book, The Metamorphosis of Plants. So this is all part of Goethe's legacy. And Steiner was known as a Goethe scholar. He was invited with a number of other Goethe scholars to come to Weimar, Germany at that time, which was Goethe's adopted home, and to create a new edition of the collected works of Goethe in celebration of Goethe's 150th birthday. And so Steiner went there and was there for 8 years. Now, I talked about how at this time in his life, in his early 20s, Steiner made a monumental decision. He decided to erase his clairvoyance, which is a very strange kind of thing. And you could say, why would he want to, why would he want to erase something so incredible, such a unique talent that he had? But he felt that anything that wasn't available to all human beings really didn't have value for humanity. So he wanted to, because this came to him through his bloodstream, known as atavistic clairvoyance, he felt that it wasn't serving humanity. So he drank hard alcohol, and he erased every vestige of that clairvoyance. And then he went about gaining it again through activities and exercises that all human beings could do. Fortunate for humanity, he was able to do this during this 8 years in Weimar, Germany, from 1888 to 1896. And his new clairvoyance that he gained was something that was really a universal clairvoyance. And the exercises that he used to obtain this clairvoyance are in one of his 4 core books, which is called Knowledge of the Higher Worlds, How Is It Achieved? So during this time, that came a little later in the early 1900s, during this time, Steiner did publish one of his first few books, but his first of his core books, which was known in German as The Philosophy of Freiheit. I talked about how Steiner wanted that book to be named The Philosophy of Spiritual Activity rather than The Philosophy of Freedom in English, because the word freedom in English has a connotation of freedom to do things. And the word Freiheit has more nuances to it. And really, in our spiritual activity as human beings is where we're truly free. And now that book is published as Intuitive Thinking as a Spiritual Path. So it really has 3 different titles over the years. And in this book, Steiner felt that the philosophy of spiritual activity contained everything that came later in his work on Earth. And I talked at length, please refer to the video on YouTube. I talked at length about the core premise of that book, which is basically that when we look out at the world seems to be split, even though we don't actually realize that. The world is split between our perceptions and our concepts, our percepts and our concepts. And the world is split because when we see percepts, we don't see at the same time the lawfulness of those perceptual experience that we have. We just see percepts, and then we go through a lot of work to really understand the lawfulness of what we're perceiving in the outward world. And Steiner said that in reality, the world is not split. The lawfulness is always right there with the percepts that we have, but the split is inside of us. And so the philosophy of spiritual activity is about getting behind our thinking and thinking about our thinking so we see our blind spots and we start to heal the split that has happened inside of us as part of world destiny, and then the split will be healed in the world. And I mentioned that this is very similar to what is said in the Course in Miracles, that the altar has been defiled. The ego doesn't want us to look within because it wants us to look everywhere else for salvation, about accept where salvation really is, which is inside of us, and that's where the altar has been defiled, and also where the cure for that is, which is the atonement. And so at this time, I said in my last presentation that Steiner, with this new clairvoyance, had this kind of inevitable meeting with the being of the Christ. Just before the turn of the century, he had an encounter with the Christ, and he came to see that the what he called the mystery of Gogotha, which was the mystery of the kind of the crucifixion and the resurrection together, was the gateway into all true knowledge. And in all of his teachings after that, he calls that the mystery of Gogotha. Now, I did make a slight mistake in what I shared a year ago when I said that Golgotha was the garden where the Passion of Christ took place. And that was partially true. Golgotha, of course, was where the crucifixion took place, but the resurrection took place in another garden, which was the Garden of Gethsemane. And so there are really two gardens connected with that mystery of the crucifixion and the resurrection. I mentioned before the mystery of Golgotha, but also the Garden of Gethsemane. So I also said that Steiner had two profound experiences where he saw spiritually, clairvoyantly, that the book of Revelation, chapter 12, was taking place at that time in history, that in 1879, the archangel Michael had cast Satan, which Steiner termed that spiritual being as his name is Ahriman, to the earth in 1879, and then really around 1899, at the beginning of the end of Kali Yuga, in the book of Revelation, the goddess that is wanting to give birth to this new spirituality, the dragon was waiting to try to devour that, and that was all of the catastrophes happening or awaiting to happen in the 20th century, the world wars and so forth. So this is where Steiner was at the turn of the century. He realized that he needed to go public with his research, and in a way he brought something very unique with this training in science and this clairvoyance, this new universal clairvoyance. He was able to go into the spiritual world and research things that had not been able to be researched in such a way. You could say going back to when the Vedas were brought in ancient India, but in a way, his spiritual science was a new presentation of you could say the Vedas. So in 1902, he brought his first kind of presentation of his spiritual research to a scientific community. They never invited him back, and so then he went to the only ones that would listen to him at that time, the Theosophical Society, and they became his group. And from the beginning of his work, there was always a stenographer to record him, because they could tell that what Rudolf Steiner was saying was real. It was his actual experience. It wasn't theorizing. And so Steiner then his complete works from the time from 1902 to 1925, those 23 years, are 354 volumes in the German, about 50 written works, and then about 300 volumes collecting his 6,000 lectures that he gave. So he lectured about 300 times on the average a year for the next 20-some odd years. And I talked about how people would ask him questions, and Steiner would say, let me look into that. Let's meet in Paris or Copenhagen or London, and in 4 weeks or in 6 weeks, and then people would travel around, and it was quite a festive experience. And you could imagine that this was really a new mystery school. This was a real-life school of wizardry that was being established. And if you can imagine Dumbledore, a real-life Dumbledore, going around and saying, hey, people would ask him questions. He'd say, well, let's meet in different cities, and I'll share the results of my research. And that became the fruit of what is known as anthroposophy. And then finally, I mentioned how around 1912, the leaders of the world theosophical community announced that they had found the new world teacher living near the Theosophical Center in India, Krishnamurti. And Steiner, in his clairvoyance and in his knowledge of cosmic history, said, no, that isn't accurate. The world teacher has already come. We're not going to have another world teacher. And that was a rupture in the Theosophical Society. The German Theosophical branch of the World Society was cast out and formed, which was the largest section of the Theosophical Society at that time, because of Steiner leading that society. And they became a new society, which was called the Anthroposophical Society. So I want to pick up there, and I want to say that the word anthroposophia, anthroposophy, comes, Steiner chose that word because the Greek word for the human being, anthropos, means one who looks upward. The human being is the only creature who looks up to the stars and questions and wonders. And so anthroposophia is really the human being looking upward to the divine being of Sophia. Sophia is the divine being of wisdom. In the Greek, Sophia, in the ancient Hebrew tradition, was the being of wisdom, a feminine being, even in the Old Testament, in the Proverbs. Wisdom, she does all these things. The Holy Spirit, God, the Mother, Saraswati, in the Hindu tradition. So one who looks upward to the divine being of wisdom, anthroposophia. That is also known as spiritual science. Last week we had the great celebration of the birth of Krishna, and I wanted to refer a few times in this talk about Krishna. Krishna in the Mahabharata is talking to Arjuna about different rajas, or different kind of royal things in the world. The city that is the greatest city right now is this city, and the greatest archer is this archer, and so forth. And he says that the greatest science is the science of the spirit. And this is Krishna speaking thousands of years ago, of course. And the science of the spirit is what Steiner's new science is called. It's synonymous, anthroposophia, anthroposophy, or the science of the spirit. And I want to begin today by referring to my friend Stephen, who is a member of this community, Stephen Goss, and is on the board of New Thought. And when Stephen and I were leading a Course in Miracles study group a year and a half ago, and whenever we would start getting into the cosmology of the Course, Stephen, not all the time, but Stephen would often say, well, you know, that's all very well and good, but it's all very simple, really. It's all about forgiveness and love. You don't need to get into the cosmology. And Stephen, in that sense, is really a bhakti yogi. He is really someone who is very simple, has a simple approach, and it's all about the heart. It's all about devotion. And I wanted to share that there are also 3 other core kind of archetypal forms of yoga that were also outlined in the ancient yogic tradition. And in order to understand Steiner, what Steiner brought, you really have to have these 4 forms of yoga in mind. And the first one is Jnana. I think it's pronounced, I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced, but I think it's pronounced Jnana yoga. And that Jnana means knowledge. So it's knowledge yoga. It's the yoga of the mind. It's the yoga that loves, that revels in understanding the universe. And then there is the yoga of the heart, bhakti yoga. There is the yoga of the will, action, which is karma yoga, which is really designed to resolve karma that is coming in, playing into the moment from the past, and create good karma going into the future. So that's karma yoga. And then there is Raja yoga, which is the royal yoga, the yoga, kind of the mystical yoga. And that is the yoga that unites those 3. So when the yoga of the mind and of the heart and of the will are unified in harmony, that is the highest yoga, and that is the royal yoga of Raja yoga. And there's a kind of an archetypal, kind of universal, sacred geometric form in that. If you think of these 3 forms as a kind of a crescent, Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, and then the Raja yoga sitting as a unifying force in that crescent. And that form is the form that I'm going to draw on to share what I will present as the key to unlock Steiner's cosmology. Because Steiner's cosmology, you can imagine, with 354 volumes, no one's ever read all of them. I think it's designed that way so no one could present themselves as kind of the guru of anthroposophy. And so, but there is a key that can unlock this, and this was developed. I was privileged to be working in 1999 and 2000 with prisoners in the Ryan Correctional Facility in Detroit. This was a prison, and I was part of the anthroposophical prison outreach work that was done there in Ann Arbor. And I had the privilege of working for a year with level 2 inmates in Ryan Correctional Facility. And these students of Steiner really wanted to understand the core message. And so together we developed this key to understanding and unlocking the cosmology of Rudolf Steiner. I'm going to ask us to do another Waldorf activity, which is using our imaginations. I would prefer to have kind of a visual graphic presentation of this next piece, but we don't have that, so I'm going to ask you to use your imagination and picture it as if it's here, and taking that U that kind of crescent that we just talked about. If you can picture this as really a very full U, and if you can imagine this U, this has been something that has been worked with in anthroposophy for over 100 years. It's humorously known as the cosmic fish bowl. And this U, if you can picture this U and then divide it horizontally in half, so that there's an upper half of the U and a lower half of the U, and then divide each of those sections in half, so that we have kind of 4 zones of this U. The bottom of the U is a fractal. It's still a U. And then the second zone has a part over here and a part over here. And the third zone has a part over here and over here. And the fourth has a part over here and over here. So if you have that U in mind, the bottom section of that U is what Steiner would call the physical world, the physical universe. And this is the world of the atomic realm, if you will. It's the world of structure. It doesn't have any life to it, but it's the world that is constructed out of the 120 chemical elements that are made out of the atomic world. And this is the world that gives structure to everything from the quantum world all the way to the galactic world. It is really the skeletal formation of the physical universe that surrounds us. So this is that bottom zone of the U. The next zone of the U is what Steiner calls the etheric world, the world of life. In Steiner's cosmology, anytime the word ether or etheric is used, it means the life forces. In the Eastern tradition, it is known as chi. And this is the world that animates the dead physical world and brings it to life for a time. That's a mystery. Why only for a time? Why isn't the etheric world joined to the physical world forever? And for a time it's joined, and then that bond is cut, and the physical world goes back towards the center of the earth, or whatever the center of the gravity is, and the etheric world goes back to the sun, which is its source. So in a way, you have the earthly world, the physical world, which is the center of our physical world, and then the sun is kind of the source of the etheric world. The third realm the third zone in that U, Steiner would call the astral world. And this is problematic a little bit because that term has come to mean various things. But if you understand the core of that word as astra, stars, this is really the world of the stars, the astrality. And it is the world of feelings and emotions. Emotions meaning energy motion. And the interactions, the relationships between the stars give us all of the star lore that we have, the subtle energies that exist in the starry realms. And in our world, really it's a kind of a paradox that only when your physical body detaches from the earth and is its own a unique being, the animals and the human beings, and you have the freedom of movement to move around, that's where astrality comes in. And this is this feeling and this emotional world which comes from interacting with other beings that are separate from yourself. So that is this world of astrality. The greatest place to experience astrality is where it is being developed in its beginning, which is in a high school, anywhere in the world. You will experience astrality in its core form. And then the fourth zone, the highest zone, is really the divine world. So now this U is one of the three axes that form this key to understanding Steiner's cosmology. And on this U, you notice that we've taken the kind of the three of the Jnana Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and the Karma Yoga, and we've made 7 out of it. So you have the first is corresponding to the 7th on this side of the U, the second with the 6th, the third with the 5th, and then the fourth one is its own. The physical world is really on its own here. And this axis is the axis of cosmic time. Now, I'm going to make another reference to Krishna. In the Mahabharata, Krishna is camping with the 5 Pandava brothers. Arjuna is one of those 5. And a rishi comes to join them, and Krishna invites this rishi to tell the brothers and himself about the mysteries of the universe and especially of cosmic time. Now, of course, Krishna, being an incarnation of Vishnu, knows all of these much more probably than the rishi does, but the rishi takes it as a privilege to share this, and he shares that the life of Brahma, the creator God, is made out of 100 lifetimes of the earth. And in the Hindu, these lifetimes of the earth are known as kalpas. And these are about 4 to 5 billion years long. Life of the earth, we know from physical science, is about 4.5 billion years right now old. And each of these kalpas, each of these kalpas are known as a day of Brahma. And then the physical universe dissolves and goes into a state of dissolution, and that is known as a night of Brahma. And those last about the same amount of time, and then the world is recreated out of the navel of Vishnu. It's a beautiful picture. And this rishi tells the Pandava brothers and Krishna that we're actually, this incarnation of the earth we're on right now is the 51st kalpa out of the 100 that is the life of Brahma. Pretty interesting. Now, Steiner, in his new spiritual science, his new presentation of the Vedas, if you will, he researched back to the 48th kalpa, so 3 incarnations of the earth before the current one, and then the current incarnation, and 3 into the future. And this became this kind of horizontal axis of cosmic time. So the second axis is, if you can picture in the middle of that U, a vertical axis, and this is really cosmic space. So the mysteries of infinity. And Steiner's research, Steiner has vast research into the realms above the human kingdom, the invisible realms of consciousness who have evolved to the point that they no longer need physical bodies. And there are 9 realms, the angels just above us. We all have a personal angel. The archangels above them, which are really looking over groups from families to businesses to nations, small groups all the way to large groups. Each nation has an archangel that looks over it and that creates the language of that nation, and so forth. So the archangels, pretty powerful beings, and yet they're just the second of the group above. Above that are the archai beings, And the archai, there's one archai that is known as the spirit of the time, the zeitgeist, and that archai really rules over the entire earth, one at a time, one archai at a time. And so that the lower three is in a group of the lower three, the angels, archangels, and archai form the lower three of the three hierarchies, and those are kind of a manifestation of the Mother God or of the Holy Spirit. And then the next group is the exousiae, the dynamis, and the karyatides. So the spirits of creation. In the Hebrew, those were known as the Elohim. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God is translated as the Elohim, and that's the exousiae, the fourth realm above us. And then the dynamis are the spirits of movement. They create all movement in the cosmos. And then the karyatides are the spirits of wisdom or delight. And they, what can you even say about the karyatides? They penetrate the entire cosmos with the wisdom that it has and the delight that beings have when they start realizing that wisdom. And that is really, those three are really the manifestation of the Christ, or Vishnu as he is known in the Hindu. And then the highest three hierarchies are what are known as the thrones, or the beings of intent. And in the Castaneda tradition, the Toltec tradition, intent is the force that rules the world. And the thrones are the beings of intent or will. And then the cherubim are the beings of harmony, the spirits of harmony, and the seraphim are the spirits of love. And these are the beings that rule the galaxies, and they really create. We work with those higher spiritual beings to plan our next lifetime. They really control all encounters that happen, and they are beyond our conception, really to understand. And they are really the manifestation of the Father God, the Creator God. And these are the 9 realms above us. We are going to be the 10th hierarchy, the hierarchy of freedom, humanity, and the animals are the 11th hierarchy, and the plants will be the 12th hierarchy. So we're really the hierarchies being formed right now. So this is that mystery of infinity, that is this vertical axis of the key to unlocking anthroposophy. And then the third axis is really the human being itself. So the human being is really where these two axes, the cosmic time and the hierarchies, cross. And the human being really manifests all of the mysteries. And that makes sense because we are the work in progress. The entire cosmos, in a way, is focused on us both, and going up into the invisible realms, both the progressive spiritual beings and the regressive spiritual beings. So spiritual beings like Lucifer, Steiner talks at length about the regressive spiritual beings. Ahriman, known as Satan in the Hebrew tradition, and a third regressive being that Steiner said, I don't even like, I name it to identify it. I don't even like to talk about it because anything you say about it gives it power. So I'm not going to name that being, but there are really 3 different regressive or evil sources, evil beings, and we are really humanity is in the midst of the interaction of all of this activity that is going on. And so if you picture again that you, going back to the 48th kalpa, so 3 incarnations of the earth ago, Steiner called that, at the top of this U, Steiner called that incarnation of the earth old Saturn. And it kind of relates to the days of the week, so relating to Saturday. So old Saturn is where we had the consciousness, humanity had the consciousness of the mineral kingdom. And that is where we receive the seed for our physical bodies. Our physical bodies are the most advanced and developed of all of our members. It is, in the working of our physical body, it's miraculous. And how can you even begin to describe the way that our physical bodies, we're discovering new miracles about the physical body. For instance, just 20 years ago, we discovered about the human microbiome and how we're really the host of countless microorganisms, and that we have this symbiotic relationship with these organisms, and the health of these organisms really determine to a large degree our health. And this is a very recent discovery about the physical body. So old Saturn, the Earth dissolved and went into a night of Brahma, and then came into existence as a new incarnation. That was the 49th Kalpa in the current life of Brahma. And that Steiner called Old Sun, relating to Sunday. And that is where we got our etheric body. And we had the consciousness of that the plants do now, plants surrounding us. We went through our plant stage in cosmic evolution during that time. And then there's a whole, lecture cycles on this, on what happened on Old Sun, but this is just the key as it relates to humanity. The Earth dissolved, came into existence again as the third in the series of 7, the 50th in the series of 100, and was known as Old Moon. So Mondays, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and on Old Moon we received the seed for our astral body. We, and on the last incarnation of the Earth, were at the animal level, and the angels were at the human level on Old Moon, and so forth. When the universe goes into the night of Brahma and comes back out, all of the realms of consciousness move up a level if they have accomplished the goal of that kalpa. And then of course then the Earth dissolved, and this current kalpa came out, and that was the 51st. And then on this planet, and this is where the action is happening. Obviously, the past doesn't really matter. This is where the action is happening. And on this planet, so Steiner, in his cosmology about the human being, said that now human beings have 4 members, and this unlocks what he means by that. We have a physical body from Old Saturn. We have an etheric body from Old Sun. We have an astral body from Old Moon. And on this planet, we're developing 4 things in a way. We have the 4th member, which is that Raja that sat in the middle of these 3, the Jnana Yoga, which is the mind, which is really, you could say, the etheric body, the Bhakti, which is the heart, the astral, and the Karma Yoga, which is the physical will. And so the Raja is what's sitting in the middle of that crescent, and sitting in the middle of these 3 bodies is what Steiner called the Ich in German, the I, capital I in English. And that's tricky to use because we also have the word I, E-Y-E, to mean I. So when you say I in English, like, what are you talking about? The I or the I? We're always talking about the capital I, the eternal individuality, which is a unique droplet of the Godhead. That's what the word I means. And we now have these 3 bodies and the I. So Steiner says that's what the human being is made up of now. And on this planet, what we need to do, what we need to accomplish, is we need to develop 3 soul members. And this is talked about in Hank Wasserman's book, The Bowl of Light. In the Hawaiian tradition, Kumu, the Kumu that he is the teacher in the Bowl of Light, talks about the 3 souls, and they're identical to the 3 souls that Steiner researched as well. And Steiner calls them the Sentient Soul, which is really the soul aspect of the astral body, the Intellectual Soul, which is really the soul aspect of the etheric body, and then the Consciousness Soul, which is really the soul, the physical body and soul. And that's our goal for this planet, is to create these 3 soul members, and then in the 3 future. So the Earth isn't just Tuesday. If you think about Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the first half of the Earth was Tuesday, Mars Day, the Mars energy, up until the turning point of time, which was the Mystery of Gogotha. And then the Mercury period, the Wednesday, was the second half of the Earth, which is what we're in now, and that is Raphael, the healing energy. And then the planet will dissolve, go into a night of Brahma. Out of it will come the new Jupiter, Thursday. That's the next incarnation, also known as the New Jerusalem. And then that will dissolve. Then the sixth in this series of 7 will be the new Venus, the new Friday, and that will dissolve. And then the 7th one, there isn't a day of the week currently. Steiner called it the Vulcan period. And that is what is known in the Course in Miracles as the Atonement, when all human beings will have remembered there and developed these 3 spirit members. It's just spirit members. So the I working in the 3 soul members will transform the astral body into the first spirit member, which is known as Manas, spirit self, on the new Jupiter, and will transform the etheric body into Buddhi, which is known as the life spirit, and then will transform the physical body, which was on the first, on old Saturn, will transform that into the resurrection body, which Jesus achieved, and that is known as Atman, or spirit human. So that's the human being, and so the future, the current task and the future of humanity. And there are a couple of other things that I need to mention to understand biodynamic gardening and anthroposophical medicine, Waldorf education, etc. And that is that currently, if you think of these 3 members, physical body, etheric body, astral body, and the I, our organism has a threefoldness that Steiner discovered in his research. The higher part of our body, or the part that's on the top, is known as the nerve sense system, which has everything to do with the senses and the nervous system. And the middle part is known as the heart-lung system, so it's the part that breathes and has the heart rhythms. And then the lower part is known as the metabolic limb system. And this is the foundation of anthroposophical medicine. And then the faculties of imagination, inspiration, and intuition are the beginning of the way that these new soul members we're developing interact with the world. We don't use our normal thinking. We use thinking becomes transformed into imagination. Feeling becomes transformed into inspiration, and willing becomes transformed into intuition. Now, the other thing that the human being has, obviously, which we know about in New Thought and all of the spiritual traditions, is the chakras. And Steiner has a whole thing about the chakras. The chakras being these 7 wheels or flowers. Each one has a certain number of petals. Steiner said that half of the petals of each of the chakras have been given to us by the masters, the bodhisattvas. So they're already developed, and all we have to do is develop the remaining petals. And once all the petals are developed, the chakras start spinning, and we perceive clairvoyantly in that realm of the cosmos that that particular chakra is attuned to perceiving. So this is the 3 kind of axes for unlocking anthroposophy. And I will stop there. I really wanted, we want to talk about the threefold social order, which was a fruit of anthroposophy that was one of probably the most important fruit of anthroposophy, and it was the one that was not able to be developed. Humanity just wasn't ready for it when it was brought 100 years ago. The remnant of that, or what was able to be established on the earth, was Waldorf education, which embodies the threefold social organism in it. And then, so that really is about this part of the spiritual part of the human being, Waldorf education, anthroposophical medicine, and then biodynamic farming, which is about this hugely important aspect of our lives, which is the nourishment that we take in, and then eurythmy. So these are things that I want to go into using this key. Maybe there'll be a chance to have a third part to this. And we do have just a couple of minutes left, and I wondered if there were any questions. I didn't have time for questions last time. I know that's a lot to take in. Yes.
Not a question, but those three souls that were developed.
Yes.
Like you would repeat those again.
Yes.
Where is that?
Yeah. So they are the Sentient Soul, which in the Hawaiian is known as the Uni Hipili, and that's the kind of the having to do with the physical world. Yeah, but it is really this. Steiner calls it the sentient soul. So it's really the astral body as a soul transformed, and then
The astral body is not material.
the souls are not material.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it is really the astral body. The sentient soul is the astral body that has become ensouled, and then the intellectual soul, and there's a whole in the ancient Babylonian is where we developed the intellectual soul, and actually the sentient soul, and then in Greco-Roman times we developed the intellectual soul. We're now developing the consciousness soul. So
The astral would be more emotional.
yes.
Okay, so it's emotional and mental,
And then the kind of the transforming the physical into consciousness. So the consciousness. So
physical.
yes, the physical becomes the conscious. The lowest of the physical members, in a way, becomes the highest of the soul
Yeah,
members.
this is fitting right in and developing the reproductive galactic council. And I think it's
Yes.
fitting there somehow.
And it does add light, you could say, on this interesting thing that Jesus talked about in the Course in Miracles, when Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford asked, well, why is this happening to us? And he said, well, it wasn't meant to happen. The Course wasn't meant to come right now, but there's been a cosmic speed up, and it had to come right now. And in the introduction to the Course, it also says that this is a required course. So it's very important that we get these three soul members developed before the planet dissolves and goes into the night. The Course in Miracles has these 4 yogas embedded in it. Really, if you the text is really the Jnana yoga part of it, the knowledge yoga. Doing the exercises is the karma yoga, the action. Being devoted to miracles in your life, kind of the manual for teachers, is the bhakti yoga part. And really balancing all of those together is the Raja yoga. So that's, yes?
Vaguely, faintly, but I just guess it wasn't real. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's what I wanted to share as part 2 of the life Rudolf Steiner and his time, his space in his place in our times. Rudolf Steiner and his place in our times.
Thank you so much. That's very complicated from my viewpoint, but it was very interesting. Thank you so much. And I'm glad I have somebody telling me what I need to do. We're going to have our offertory now, and we don't pass our bowl around due to the pandemic. If we could have a song while each person comes individually and does help support our group and keep us going. So, thank you.
attention to the open sky. You never know what will be coming down. I don't remember losing track of you. You're always dancing in and out of view. I must have thought that you'd always be around. Always keeping things real by playing the clown. Now you're nowhere to be found. I don't know what happens when people die. Can't seem to grasp it as hard as I try. Like a song I can hear playing right in my ear that I can sing. I can't help listening. I can't help feeling stupid standing around, crying as they ease you down. 'Cause I know that you'd rather we were dancing our sorrow away. Just do the steps that you've been shown by everyone you ever know, till the dance becomes your very own. No matter how close to yours another steps have grown, in the end there is one dance you'll do alone. Keep a fire for the human race. Let your prayers go drift into space. You never know what will be coming down. Perhaps a better world is drawing near. Just as easy it could all disappear, along with whatever meaning you might have found. Don't let the uncertainty turn you around. Go on and make a joyful sound. Into a dancer you have grown, from a seed somebody else has thrown. Go on ahead and throw some seeds of your own, and somewhere between the time you arrive and the time you go, may lie a reason you were alive that you'll never know.
Rob, that was wonderful. Really appreciate it. First of all, Phil, do you have any announcements? Anything you'd like to say? Anything upcoming? Okay. I'll go ahead and let us all know what's happening coming up at New Thought Center of Hawaii. To reiterate what Margie said, unfortunately, we won't be having our in-person services, but 10 a.m. is still going to be the time on Sundays through the end of September at least. And you can check the website for New Thought Center of Hawaii on YouTube link to go ahead and tune in next Sunday. The next 3 Sundays, on the 12th, we're going to be having a New Thought Elder give some important moments in our 50-year history, and music will be by Lori Moore. Looking forward to that. And then for our fall equinox on the 19th of September, Elizabeth Therault is going to be speaking on My Journey and the Impact of New Thought Teachings. And then on the 26th of September, we have our birthday Zoom, and New Thought Center of Hawaii will be turning 50, and we'll be recognizing our new members. For the monthly events, the first Sunday of the month, we normally have our pre-service healing meditation crystal bowls at 9 a.m., but for right now, that'll be canceled for the rest of September. And then the last Sunday of the month is normally our produce giveaway after service, but again, we'll have to curtail that, and hopefully in October we'll be able to do that again. Service opportunities, we've got some volunteers needed for the 50th Jubilee Planning Group. So if you're interested, you can give one of the board members, one of us, a call. And then also, we need a special person to recreate the Facebook page for New Thought Center of Hawaii. If anyone's interested in that, let us know. If you want to be on the mailing list to receive the weekly e-newsletter, you can sign up on the website, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com. And you could also receive New Thought Center of Hawaii info via the Dolphin Podners mailing group. So thank you to everyone who's been here, and thank you to all of our volunteers. Really appreciate it. We're going to stand now and sing, but before that, we're going to have a special announcement from Pasha.
Thank you. So I'm sorry that everything is changing so quickly. Your board of trustees, of which I'm the president, we were really hoping to be able to make the necessary changes to continue having in-person meetings and still be safe and still keep our online options happening simultaneously. But we did, in view of the rapid changes that have been happening with the COVID situation on this island, we felt that it's best that most of us stay home most of the time, at least for the next few weeks. It's my personal hope that this will just be a strategic retreat for a fairly short period of time. When we were at this place last year, it's so strange the way things cycle. As Phil mentioned, he was our speaker just a few weeks before we had to discontinue in-person services in 2020. But what gives me hope that it's going to be shorter is that this variant, this Delta variant, has already made its presence known in other parts of the world, most dramatically in India. And it does seem to follow a certain trajectory that lasts for 2 to 3 months and then sort of subsides or loses strength. So last year it was a 6-month period of only having our services online, and I'm hoping this time it will not exceed 6 weeks, and that those of us who enjoy gathering in person will be able to do so again, at least in October. But as far as the near future, there were 3 things that I wanted to communicate. One is about membership and communication. So if you're not a member of New Thought Center and you want to be, it's really a simple thing. This is what the membership form looks like. It has the 10 very broad spiritual principles that define New Thought. And then it has this box where you fill in your name and information. And that information is very useful for keeping us connected during times when we can't meet in person. I have, I think, 6 copies with me that any of you that are here in person today, if you would like to fill one out, please do. And those of you that are watching the live stream, you can also access this form, and on our website, I believe Julia created a section for membership. And so you can join that way also. And those people who do fill these forms out either way will be kind of honored and recognized on the last Sunday of September. And as we did last year, we will celebrate with a birthday Zoom. I described earlier the pleasure of having the Zoom birthday party with our family. Well, we can do that with our New Thought Ohana also. And that will be participatory. That is to say, it won't be watching a YouTube video. It will be actually participating in something as it's happening. So we can include people in other parts of the country and the world, but we do have to all join at the same time, which would be 10 a.m. Hawaii time. So put that on your calendar if that's something you would like to be part of. The other two services of September, when we know we won't be here in person, it will be YouTube. It will be pre-recorded and then uploaded to the New Thought YouTube channel, and the link will be shared by way of the newsletter and the website, and it'll go live on the Sunday morning, and then you can access it at that time or any time afterwards. So that's how it will be working in the next few weeks. Since we won't be able to be here on the premises for a while, I wanted to invite you on your way out, those of you who are physically here, to take a look at our library. Because if you are going to be spending more time at home than usual, we've got some really good books and even a few CDs and DVDs that you're welcome to take home with you. It's just a on your honor sign out process. So other board members that are here, is there anything I've forgotten or that you would want to add to that? Okay. Rob, that was such a beautiful offertory song. Was that one of yours?
No, that's Jackson Brown.
Jackson Brown. Wow. Every piece of music you've shared today has seemed so right on. It just unifies with the field sharing and the science of mind reading. So do you feel comfortable leading us in the Hawaii Aloha?
I know well enough to follow you guys though.
Okay, the question is, which of us here has the better singing voice? Annie, are you up for it? Okay, the words are posted in many places in this on this lanai, but she'll be the only one who'll be picked up by the live stream, so the rest of you don't have to worry too much if you're mispronouncing something. And you think you can kind of pick up the chords or?
No, probably won't try.
Okay, so we'll just do it a cappella. Yeah. Okay, so we're not making a circle, but please stand for our closing song. Our closing song is called Hawaii Aloha. E Hawaii e ku'one hawane, ku'ome hula iwine, holi no au ina pono lani o. E Hawaii aloha e haoli na o pio o Hawaii oli e mana ahe makani hamaine mau ke aloha no Hawaii e haoli na o pio o Hawaii
Oli He, Oli He, Maina Ahe Ahe Makani, Kai Mine, Maukeloha, No Havai, Maukeloha, No Havai.